It's me again. This time around, I'm actually doing a piece that was suggested by one of my subscribers and viewers here on this YouTube channel. I want to give credit. It's Jason Kirsch 902. He commented on my UFC versus Strikeforce video. He said, can you do a ranking of prime UFC champions? Disregard length of the title reign. Just who you think is the best at the peak of their powers. Interesting. The reason Jason was asking that is I spoke a little bit about Cain Velasquez. And I said Cain, in his absolute peak, at his prime, was one of the best heavyweights of all time, if not the best. The problem is his reign just wasn't that long. He had injuries, he had problems that kept him in and out of the octagon. So at his peak, when he's really at his best, maybe the best heavyweight of all time. Right now, I would put him third or fourth behind. I put Fedor number one, Stipe Miocic number two. Minotauro and Cain would fight for that third spot. He just didn't have the longevity necessary to be an all-time great to me at heavyweight, or the greatest. And so Jason asked, could I do a list of those guys? Fascinating, because it makes me kind of go through my mental Rolodex of fighters, and anything that makes me do that is fun. So here you go. So like, comment, subscribe, make a suggestion of your own. If I like it, I'll do it. There you go. Simple, interactive. So 25, 35, 45 are going to be difficult because they don't have the history of the other weight classes, right? 25 was added late. 35 and 45 were folded in from the WEC. There haven't been as many champions. There isn't that long list of me to go, man, their prime was really amazing, because their prime, still going on. 35, all the champions who have fought other than TJ Dillashaw are still active. So there's no way I can look back at their careers in a sense. So we're going to go 55 and up for this one. Starting at 155 pounds, BJ Penn has to be one of the top fighters of all time to have a peak that was frustratingly short in the UFC. Let me explain. So back in BJ Penn's day, he made his MMA debut in the UFC, which is almost, it's unheard of today to make your UFC debut. Beat a guy named Joey Gilbert, and knocked out D. Thomas, knocked out Kal Uno, got a shot at the champ. Got a really fast title shot at Jens Pulver after 5 minutes of total octagon time or something. And lost to Jens Pulver, the 155-pound champion. Kind of showed his lack of experience at the time. And so Jens Pulver leaves the UFC with the title. They end up having a tournament to decide the next champion. He gets to the finals, gets a rematch with Kal Uno, and the fight's a draw. BJ Penn kind of looked a little sluggish in that fight, a little lackadaisical. He said later that he really wasn't into the whole tournament idea. He really didn't like it. Anyway, they have a draw. The UFC cuts the 155-pound division. So now BJ Penn doesn't have a title to fight for, moves up to 170, and beats the champ Matt Hughes. Chokes him out with a rear naked choke. Unbelievable performance. Then he has a contract dispute with UFC, leaves the UFC, and bounces around between the Japan and Hawaii circuits. Beats Dwayne Bang Ludwig with an arm triangle choke. He beats Fireball Kid Takanori Gomi in Hawaii. He beats Renzo Gracie. He beats Rodrigo Gracie. He fights Lyoto Machida at light heavyweight. So he's kind of bouncing around at different weight classes, doing all kinds of stuff, comes back to the UFC. And this dominant run as UFC champion, he destroys Joe Daddy Stevenson for the title. He beats Sean Shirk, the former champion, with a flying knee, waves off the fight himself. Beats him with a flying knee, waves it off at the end of the round. Referee stops the fight. It was one of the most incredible performances you're ever going to see after dominating Sean Shirk the whole time. Then he blows away Diego Sanchez. He looked like he got hit with an axe. Blood all over the mat, destroyed him. And then he smokes Kenny Florian. Now, after that, as most MMA fans will tell you now, who are modern fans, he went on a pretty serious slide at the end of his career. And unfortunately, that's what people remember. But in his prime, in those days, he was unbelievable. We looked at this guy and went, dude, he's never going to lose a title until Father Time just takes it from him. Just an unbelievable talent. For people who don't know, he started jiu-jitsu in 1997. He wins the Black Belt World Championships in 2000 in 3 years. First American to ever win a world title at the black belt level. It was incredible. The guy was just uber talented, and that run was incredible. The only reason not remembered as the best today is partly that slide at the end, and also he had 3 title defenses, and he's tied with Benson Henderson, Khabib, Frankie Edgar, so he just didn't get that one more to make him the best of all time. Right now I put Khabib number 1 at 55, but BJ Penn is my starter. Moving up, 170, Matt Hughes. Now, I know a lot of people are going to go, isn't he an all-time great? Yeah, I would put him right now third. I would say GSP, Kamaru Usman, Matt Hughes. But The reason he's on this list is he beasted guys in a way you just don't do anymore. There's too much parity. Guys are too good. Matt Hughes, 2-time All-American. There were better wrestlers, even in that era. Kevin Jackson, Olympic gold medalist, world champion in wrestling. Mark Schultz, gold medalist, world champion. Who else? Townsend Saunders, Olympic silver medalist. So there were better guys. He was the first one to really adapt his wrestling to MMA. Simple blast double legs, snatch single legs, the easy stuff, the simple stuff. He did so well. He just manhandled everybody he fought. And his ability to weight cut like a wrestler. I know it sounds weird now. Back then, those weight cutting techniques hadn't filtered out of the non-wrestling centric camps, right? The Militich camp, they were always big. Everybody else, if you didn't have a lot of wrestlers on your squad, you didn't know how to cut weight like a wrestler. And so Matt Hughes was often so much bigger than his opposition. And he just manhandled mother effers. It was incredible. Of course, his run stopped by BJ Penn, and then the next one stopped by GSP. He just ran into fighters that were better in their prime, especially GSP. That was a real passing of the torch. But those moments when GSP was at the top of his powers, destroying everybody, it was really an incredible sight to see. That's why he's on this list. Matt Hughes, during his title run in the UFC, was really something special. Incredible to watch that guy dominate in a way that modern MMA doesn't really allow. My analogy is Jim Brown as a running back in the day. Right? If you see tapes of Jim Brown, he ran over guys. Right? I know a guy who played with Jim Brown. He said, you tackled him once. You didn't want to tackle him again. We have great running backs today in the NFL, but parity means defensive players are much bigger, they're much faster, they're much better prepared. Guys don't run over the opposition the way Jim Brown did. Matt Hughes ran over the opposition in a way that Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman and even GSP kind of didn't. And so that's why he's on this list. Moving up to 185. This one right here in my heart. Rich Franklin. It's my boy. Why? Not only was he a great fighter, really good dude. If you ever had the opportunity to deal with Rich Franklin at all, nice, humble guy. Just, great dude. One of the really nice guys in MMA. Anyway, he has the unfortunate placement in 185-pound history to be right before Anderson Silva. I call him kind of the Sonny Liston of MMA, where Sonny Liston, who of course lost to a young, brash fighter named Cassius Clay, was really an amazing fighter. It's just we all remember Muhammad Ali. we all remember Muhammad Ali. And know to remember, dude, how good Sonny Liston was before Muhammad Ali beat him. Do a separate video on that if you want. But similar deal with Rich Franklin. He was such a great middleweight. He just happened to run into the greatest middleweight of all time in Anderson Silva. So if people don't know, he started out at 205 pounds, beat the dog piss out of Evan Tanner at 205, went down to 185, and took the middleweight title away from Evan Tanner. So Evan Tanner was a middleweight champion. Murilo Bustamante was the middleweight champion. He left because of a contract dispute after beating Matt Lindland. And so anyway, Evan Tanner was the next one to get it. He rematches with Rich Franklin. Rich beats the crap out of him. Again, just mauls him, becomes 185-pound champion. He was big. He was strong. His workouts, I remember watching them and going, I can't believe he does that. I was getting tired watching him go through his workout. He was just one of those grinders who was really famous for his ability to outlast fighters. And technically sound, really, really good, but a hard worker. You just couldn't outwork Rich Franklin. So the thing to me that is so interesting is he had 2 title defenses of his 185-pound championship before he unfortunately ran into a prime Anderson Silva. And what he did was he fought a guy, Nate Quarry, and then another guy, David Loazo. You probably don't know who those people are unless you're an old fan like me, but they were rock-solid contenders. Nate the Rock Quarry, rock-solid. They were solid contenders, and they deserve to be where they are. Nate Quarry was on the first Ultimate Fighter. He was in the 185-pound division. He got hurt. A lot of people forget he was probably going to win the thing and got hurt and ended up having to leave the show. But anyway, fought Rich Franklin, one of the scariest fights I've ever seen. What I mean is, if you know fighting, this scary-looking knockout isn't as important as the beating you take before it. If you take a one-shot knockout and you're out, it sucks. It's not fun. But it's the long, sustained beating that actually does damage to you. Nate Quarry got the piss beaten out of him and then got knocked out scary. he looked like a sequoia, just stiff 2 minutes into round number 1. He was getting crap beaten out of him, and he fell like he was going to fall into a coffin. It was bad. Beat the crap out of Nate Quarry. Did the same thing to David Loiseau. Once again, not a fighter you guys probably remember, but a really dynamic striker, quick on his feet, accurate, and Rich just beat the hell out of him. I remember him looking like Frankenstein. He had this ridge of just, all around his eyes were swollen. He looked like the Geico caveman. He just got the crap beaten out of him. Then he took on this guy named Anderson Silva, who was a pride transplant in his second UFC fight, and the rest is history. Silva beat the crap out of him twice, knocked him out both times from the clinch, and that was it. And Rich did have some significant wins after that. He had a lot of significant fights. Fought, Forrest Griffin, Vitor Belfort. He had a great Vanderlei Silva, Chuck Liddell. Beat Silva, beat Liddell. It's just one of those things where he still had significant fights. He just couldn't beat Anderson Silva. So his run was really, really short, but man, he was amazing in that run. 205 pounds. Who am I going to pick from 205 pounds? A guy that beat Rich Franklin, Lyoto Machida. Now, once again, for old head fans like me, when Lyoto Machida knocked out Rashad Evans to win the title, Mike Goldberg famously said, "Welcome to the Machida era." And it's become kind of a joke because Machida only defended the title one time in a fight that most people thought he lost, and then he lost to Shogun Rua, and that was it. Goldberg wasn't saying anything everybody else didn't believe. This guy was undefeated. He had looked incredible. 16-0. Why wouldn't we think it's the Machida era? The knockout, if people remember, Rashad Evans snapped back and hit the fence. It was an incredible knockout. But that style, he had a karate style. First got to really make it work in MMA. And there were a lot of comparisons between him and Anderson Silva. It was a teammate of his. But elusive, accurate, powerful. You couldn't figure him out. It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube while it's punching him in the face. He just had a style that we all thought he would be champion for a long time, and it would be hard to figure out that riddle. He was that good, and he had looked untouchable in his UFC run. Had some great knockouts leading up to his title win over Rashad Evans. So we all thought, man, he's gonna really be something amazing. Next fight, he beats Shogun Rua by decision. A lot of people thought he lost that fight. In the rematch, Shogun Rua wins the title. Then John Jones becomes champion and does the famous guillotine where he drops Lyoto Machida like a sack of potatoes. So much like Rich Franklin, he's kind of buried in the pre-John Jones, post-John Jones. And then everything between that is John Jones. So he's like pre-John Jones. So not a lot of people remember how great we thought he was before he lost the title. We really thought he was amazing and was going to hold the title for a long time. So that's why that little peak, although it was only one title defense, I would count the win over Rashad Evans as all of us going, oh my God, this guy's incredible. His run right around that era, unbelievable. You all know who I'm going to pick at heavyweight. Cain Velasquez, already said it. An incredible specimen. Just incredible work ethic, never slowed down. All-American wrestler, great takedown, excellent striking, real power, had a vicious streak a mile long. You seemed like, it seemed like watching him that he had no problem. I'll hurt you as bad as I have to hurt you to win. Frightening. A big Terminator. The guy was incredible. Injuries kept him out of what I would call all-time greatness because of that streak. Teddy Atlas said it about Mike Tyson. He said, greatness requires longevity. Mike didn't have that. And longevity at a great level, to me, defines greatness. You can be great for one or two fights. You can be great for a little bit. All-time greatness requires longevity that Cain didn't have, unfortunately. Because I agree that I think in his absolute physical prime, he might be one of the most, or the most, unbeatable heavyweight of all time. But enjoy. Once again, if you have an idea, let me know. Leave it in the comment section. Appreciate you.